I'm joined by Lyn Formica from McPherson Super. How are you, Lyn?
Very well, thank you.
Look, you're speaking about death for the SPAA conference. It seems like death is almost a trending topic. There's, I think, 5 speakers over SPAA for 2014.
There's a lot of topics on death, and I think it relates to the fact that estate planning is a big issue. Estate planning would encompass one of the significant forms of advice that you would give these days, whether you're an accountant or a financial planner. So it comes up quite often that people have got questions.
All right, is it a bigger issue than it has been in the past?
Most definitely, probably because of an ageing population, or whether it's just the fact that more people are aware of the issues in relation to death these days, whereas in years gone by, people were just oblivious that there were tax consequences.
Right, and the tax consequences are quite heavy as well, aren't they?
That they can be. If you haven't structured it appropriately, or if you didn't quite know what you were doing, then you can certainly get a really bad tax outcome.
Right, so ideally, if someone was coming to you for their self-managed super advice and planning for death, which sounds stupid, but we should all do it, right? So someone's planning to fix up their estate, where would they begin?
They would begin, certainly the discussion with me would begin about the fact, what do you want to happen?
Yeah.
And how can we structure it so that can happen? Or if that can't quite happen, what can we get that's going to give you the best result?
Okay, so what sort of things, obvious things, cannot happen? So if I said to you, when I die, I want my kids to have my money, I want to give some to charity, I want my dog to get looked after for the rest of its... Can you do all of that? Is that what happens? Is that the process?
Well, yeah, certainly that's what happens, that people give us an indication of what they would want to happen. And some of those things can't happen. So, for example, you can't make a death benefit payment directly to a charity. So if someone particularly wants their superannuation to go to charity, we need to advise them that they've got to pay a payment through to their estate. And they then need to make sure that their will really appropriately encompasses the fact that a payment's going to go through to charity. Otherwise, it's just not going to end up there.
Okay, but does your self-managed super govern your will, or does your will govern your super?
Neither.
Is that an unfair question?
No, it's a very good question, because a lot of people are confused about that. So it's the trustees of your self-managed superannuation fund who determine where your superannuation is going to be paid,
yep.
Unless you've made a binding death benefit nomination, in which case a binding nomination is going to be followed. So if you've made a binding nomination to make a payment to your children, that's fine, that's going to be followed. In the absence of you saying anything, then the trustees of the fund are going to decide what to do,
okay.
And they'll then be restricted by the legislation, so they'll normally make a payment to the estate, which will then be dictated by your will. Okay.
How difficult is it for you to talk to people about their own passing, or do you have to bring it up, or do they always?
No, well, I suppose it depends on the age of the client. If I was talking to a 30-year-old,
yeah.
Obviously they don't want to talk to me about them dying, because they don't see that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking to a 65-year-old, normally they will bring it up first. But probably the biggest problem that we have is that most people think everything is going to be fine when they die.
Yep.
Their children are not going to fight. They don't fight now, so why could they ever have any hassles when they die? They just think it's all going to be easy, and so they don't want to necessarily address some of those other issues that should be addressed.
Okay, so how hard is it for you to get someone to, pull their head out of the clouds, which is where they're going anyway, but pull their head out of the clouds and then actually address some of those pretty serious possibilities?
Yeah, I suppose it just depends on what the issue is. If it's tax or something like that, most of the time they're willing to address it, because they don't want to pay any more tax than they have to.
Yeah.
So they're happy to take advice and those sorts of things. If it's a situation where I'm telling them that they really need to take some better control on what they're doing, because I'm worried that one of their children might have an unfair advantage against another, something like that, it's very difficult to get them to address those sorts of issues.
And is it for you to assess that situation, say, between siblings, that one might be being looked after more than another?
Well, and I suppose, I don't know exactly what they're doing, or whether one of them is being unfairly looked after more than the other. You hear all sorts of different stories.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But I suppose from an advisor, I'm just trying to make sure that one of them hasn't been put in a position of control over another. So
okay.
If we've made one of the children a trustee of the super fund, but the other child isn't, what other safeguards have we put in place to make sure that one's not going to do the wrong thing by the other one?
Okay, for you, what's the most exciting part about dealing in this aspect of the law and investments?
I don't know whether exciting is the right word, but I actually enjoy the fact that legislation keeps changing. I like that fact that as an advisor you need to keep on your toes.
Yep.
You need to be constantly monitoring what's going to happen. You need to be constantly monitoring the client's changes in circumstances as well. So estate planning can't be a set and forget type of exercise. It's not just a case of doing someone's will and then walking away.
Yep.
It's something that they need to follow through with, every once or 2 years, so that we have a really good overview, a review of what they've been doing.
But isn't that one of the great things about SPAA is that it's a technical conference? It's not that you're not brought in here and they're trying to G you up and make you feel good about the industry. You're actually here to learn, and it's a learning conference.
Most definitely, it's a high-level learning conference, and if you don't walk away with some significant tips on how you should be doing things differently, or even just walking away getting the confidence that you're doing things right,
Yep.
That's the benefit of a SPAA conference.
All right, and you've been a big part of it by with your own session and helping others. So, good on you, Lyn.
Thank you.
All right, Lyn Formica, thanks very much.
Thank you.